Alright, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to Redline Motorsport. And we are here for the fourth round of the Friday Championship in Assetto Corsa Competizione. And our track today is the Hungaroring. And I'm not alone today. I am joined by James Parker, who is one of the racers in the Wednesday Championship. Hello, James.
Hello, Fabian. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here, and hopefully the Friday guys can produce a brilliant race for us tonight.
Yeah, exactly. We already saw a very good race on Wednesday. Well, we two didn't see it really. We were part of it, but I guess it was good racing, especially for you, James, who took the race win on the last few minutes.
Yes, that was it was a race of two halves, really, Fabian, because obviously I picked up a penalty in the first lap with obviously my own esports teammate, which is never a good thing to do. Um, but yeah, I put my head down and obviously tried to pressure Tony as much as I physically could. Um, and luckily, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, he made a big mistake coming off the final corner when we were coming up to lap one of the Ferraris, and I made sure I made it count. And obviously, I'm making a bit of a habit of that after Misano as well, where I obviously took the second place from Chris in the last few minutes as well. So um, yeah, it was an exciting race. But obviously Catalonia is going to be pretty difficult back of the grid. So a lot of catching up to do in the next race.
Yes, exactly. And as we are now in the third round, or in the fourth round for championship, we already had 3 rounds. So let's have a quick look at our championship standings. Just switch the HUD very quickly. Alright, so we've got Steve Strelo in the Lexus on first position. He's currently dominating, I would say, the league with 2 wins and the third place. So he's been on the podium for every race so far. Then he is closely followed by Alberto Gianfrest in his Bentley, who is also part of the Wednesday Championship, but he is driving in the Ferrari there. He also looks very solid, and he seems to be improving race by race, as he was 5th in Misano, 3rd in Spa, and 2nd in Nürburgring. Then to round up the top 3, we've got Ozzy Takamaki from Finland in 3rd position with 55 points, and he already has a little bit of he already is a little bit behind Alberto. So it's around 21 points, and that is already a lot in this championship, as everyone who basically finishes the race gets points. And I think I'm not too sure about it right now, but I think the first position gets 5 points more than the second, and the second gets 4 points more than the third. But I'm not too sure about that. But it's not the point difference are not that much like in Formula One, for example. So it's hard to gain a lot of places or a lot of points during a race weekend.
Yeah, and also Fabian, Takamaki didn't obviously race in the Nürburgring, and
Oh yes, exactly.
I don't think he's racing tonight. I haven't seen him in the entry list yet, so that's obviously going to dent his championship chances, and also that means that obviously Tommy Kalekoala could obviously jump him tonight, along with Benny Benton as well, if they have a good result.
Yeah, let's have a short look. I guess that he's not signed out yet, Ozzy Takamaki.
No, he might obviously be joining us late, I guess, in time for qualifying, but
Oh,
um,
sorry. I got confused by the Discord names. He is actually signed out for Hungaroring.
oh, I see. Yeah, that's a big shame then, really.
Yeah.
Um, it's obviously he'll be hoping for a good result tonight to solidify his third place in the championship.
Yeah, exactly, and he will most likely lose the position to Tommy, who is just 1 point behind, and he is racing today, so if he finishes the race, or at least 50% of the race, I guess that's the threshold to get points, then
Yeah.
then he will most likely jump Ozzy Takamaki and maybe get to a third position, but that also depends on other drivers like Benny Benzel or Christian Wheel.
Or even Joe McCauley, obviously, because he drove away in the Nürburgring in that race in the last round, and tonight he'll also be looking for a second win in 2 races.
Yes, exactly. He started as a guest driver, I guess, but now he's a solid part of this championship. He started in Nürburgring and in great fashion. It was his first race in the championship, and he dominated everything on this race. No one could touch him in that race.
No, in mixed conditions, he was extremely quick. And it helped. I mean, the Audi is exceptionally good round the Nürburgring. And it's actually very strong round here as well. So he's got a great shot of getting 2 wins on the bounce.
Yes, exactly.
And I think at the moment, if I look at the timing screens, there's a big fight at the top in practice for the P1 position. And Joe McCauley is actually only 9 thousandths off Steve Strelow's fastest time so far.
Yeah, okay. Then let's continue with the championship positions. We've got Tommy, as we already told you, in 4th position, who will most likely jump Ozzy Takamaki. Then there's Benny Benzel in 5th position. Christian Wheel in his Porsche on 6th position. Joseph McCauley, who we already mentioned, started his championship in Nürburgring in the 3rd run, and in great fashion, and he is 7th position now. Then after him there's Eric Engman. Behind him there's Nicolas Vrage in 9th position, and to round off the top 10 there's also Matteo Percassi in his Lexus. And I will quickly show you also the other drivers. So Michael Springer in 11th, Nick Dealey in 12th position. Then there's Thiago Gouveia, who I think doesn't race today as well. Then
Correct. I think he is signed out as well. I think when I checked earlier.
Okay. So then we've got Marcel Richter behind him, Victoria in 15th position with her BMW, who also just she was in the championship as the championship started, but as she was in her holidays, she couldn't take part in Misano and Spa. That's why she only raced in 1 race so far. And David Santos is behind her. Then we've got a disqualified member of this championship. It's Jens Sunde. This may have several reasons why he has been disqualified. I guess he was disqualified for not showing, for not signing out and being part of the race.
Yes, I believe the maximum points is 10, isn't it, before you're disqualified, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And you gain 5 penalty points if you don't show up and if you don't sign out of this race.
Yeah, so obviously by not notifying Simon and the guys in the first 2 races, obviously he's been disqualified.
Yes, exactly. Then we've got Vitor Costa from Portugal. Portugal.
Come on, Fabian. Come on, Fabian. You've got this.
I don't know how to exactly pronounce it in English. Portugal. Is it Portugal?
Portugal.
Ah, okay,
yeah?
Portugal. It's a bit different in German. So that was our Pro Championship. Let's continue with our AM class, if I can quickly switch it if everything works. No, of course it doesn't work. I just checked it a few minutes before the start of the stream. Because I pressed the wrong button.
We're very professional here, guys.
Yes, exactly. Redline Motorsport only features the most professional commentators and race car drivers. Alright,
Well,
so...
in our defense, Fabian, we're race car drivers, not regular commentators, so...
Yes, exactly. Well, I guess you could say that I'm a regular commentator, because I already commentated on some races.
Yeah, I've got an excuse, but you haven't.
Okay, but I managed to open the AM class sheet. Let's start with our first position, Marco Winkler. He hasn't won a race so far, which is a surprise, but he's been consistent, and that's what will bring you far in the AM class, because obviously in the AM class, the drivers will struggle more than the pro class drivers, because they are not that experienced or haven't trained that much like the pro class drivers, and that's why consistency is everything in the AM class.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were discussing it off stream earlier. You know, as an AM driver, your sole priority is to obviously collect as many points as possible, but in the most consistent fashion. Obviously, if you win a race but then have 2 DNFs, that's obviously not going to help your championship standings. But as you can see, Marco has obviously finished in the top 5 in every single round. So although he hasn't won a race, he's been in the fight every single race. So that's obviously what's gained him the top position.
Yeah, okay, as qualifying already started, because we just talked too much about the pro class, I think we have to quickly show all the other drivers too, or mention them. So there's Anthony Benenate, who also does our website, our brilliant website, where I also got these graphics from. He is currently in second position, and he has managed to win a race in Misano. Then we've got our Czech driver Libor Vodicka in third position, who rounds off the top 3. And he has won Spa, but he didn't compete in Misano. And if he would have competed in Misano, I guess he would have been the top 1 driver right now, because he finished first in Spa and second in Nürburgring.
Yeah, his consistency is obviously very good. So yeah, if he had raced in Misano, he would have just obviously pipped Marco at the top.
Yes, exactly. And as we have not much time left, because we want to see the drivers burn in their perfect lap times, I just mentioned the rest of the drivers very quickly. So there's Nico Nellas in 4th position, Yuzo Grenmark in 5th position, Fernando Silva in 6th, Ray Taylor behind him in 7th, Tim Laudeman comes after him in 8th position. On 9th position there's Orpheus Badmoon, followed by Mehmet Kara, and he is followed by Justin Velbilov. Colin Tuck in 12th position. On 13th position there's Magnus Hoffman. Then there's Ryan Dinich in 14th position, John Spriggs in 15th, Kamil Kurek in 16th, Luis Jordan Jars in 17th, Tom Vandenberg in 18th, Jörn Schuchter in 19th position, and to round off the championship, Harry Gould in 20th position. So that's all our championship standings so far, but they will most likely change after this race.
Yes, I'm just looking at the guys out on track. They've just started their first hot laps. So Vicky's leading the train, so she'll post her time first, and we'll see how it all shakes out once they've registered their first lap times.
Yeah, let's just focus on Vicky for this moment. So she is already part of the Wednesday Championship, and she was rather unlucky to have me behind her at the start, because I turned her around, which
Oh,
resulted
Fabian.
in her having only the 10th position as a result. But I guess she would have been a little bit further up the grid if I have not spun her around.
Was that in turn 1, was it?
It was in turn 1, yeah. It was rather unlucky because it wasn't my fault 100%ly because, well, it was more like we both did something wrong. We both have left have had some space left.
I see.
And she tried to avoid a driver which has gone off track. That's why she moved a little bit to the right side. And I wanted to stay a little bit behind her, but I was a little bit. My front wheels were right next to her car, and that's why we touched. And as the crash physics of ACC are unfortunately not very accurate at the moment, that resulted in a spin which would most likely wouldn't have resulted in a spin in real life.
Yeah, I've suffered from that myself before, so I can appreciate how such a small touch can obviously affect your car quite a lot.
Yeah. So we basically got all two commentators got guilty on Wednesday.
Yeah, this. We haven't got a good track record, really, have we? The two drivers that caused collisions on the first lap are now going to be judging everyone on their first lap tonight.
Well, to be fair, we haven't had any incidents in the other races, but on Hungary we've been guilty, and I'm not
Yes.
proud of that.
No, I grovelled to Chris at the end of the race and apologised profusely. So hopefully he's forgiven me by now.
Yeah. And for me it's twice as bad because I'm a steward as well, so it's a real shame for me.
Yeah, you had to judge your own crash. That must have been interesting.
No, I don't do that. But I'm certainly not a good. Well, I'm just missing the right word. It's Vorbild in German. But I just look it up because unfortunately you don't speak German. It's role model. I'm not a good role model. That's what I wanted to say.
I see. Yeah. I mean, having a look at the first runs quickly, Fabian Joe's just banged in a 43 flat straight off the bounce, and he's got a second advantage over Alberto Gianfres at the moment. So, yeah, it's gonna be up to the guys to close that gap.
Yeah, that's already a really great lap by Joseph Macaulay there, because I will just look at the qualifying on Wednesday. I think the pole lap wasn't that much faster either.
No, so Joe is pretty much on mine and Samir's and Chris's pace. So in our esports chat during the week, he had posted a 43.2 on a fast track for the Audi on a qualifying run. So I expect him to be in the 42s by the end of the session.
So yeah, to give you a little bit of context for this lap time from Joseph Macaulay, with this lap time he actually would have gone pole on Wednesday, as he is a few hundredths of a second faster than Chris Höke, who took pole on Wednesday.
But it'll be interesting to see, Fabian, if any of the guys suffer from the same kind of tyre bug that we did in qualifying.
Ah, yes, exactly. Will you just elaborate more on that?
Yes, so my qualifying runs, after my first run, I did a 43.4, and I just didn't go any faster the entire session after doing 3.42s in practice. And obviously we discussed after the race what happened, Fabian, and you seem to have suffered the same problem where the tyres didn't reset automatically when you came into the pits after every run, and luckily you caught it at the end of the qualifying session where you manually switched the tyres onto a fresh set in the setup screen, Unfortunately, I didn't, so I was on tyres that had done 10 or 11 laps by the end of the qualifying session, which explains why I didn't go any quicker.
Yeah, and that's why we were quite surprised by your not so fast pace in the qualifying on Wednesday, because you absolutely nailed your practice lap with a 1:42.6, I think it was, or was it even faster?
140, no, 1:42.821
Ah, okay.
was my quickest. But yeah, I didn't magically lose 6 tenths of a second, thankfully, which would have been quite worrying. So yeah, it's obviously something we all need to watch for Catalonia.
And the tricky part about it is that you don't exactly recognize it when something like that happens, because the tires are not that much uh, worn, so that you will actually feel the difference. So that's why James and I struggled um, to feel the difference, because there was almost no difference except for lap times. The lap times really did suffer.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end of my qualifying session, I was getting lots of oversteer out, or very like progressive oversteer out of all the slow corners, and I just I had no idea why. And obviously, you don't think about the tires because it's never happened before where they haven't automatically switched to fresh tires. So obviously, that's the explanation, and um, uh, it's why. I mean, when you're talking about 6 tenths of a second, you can't really feel that in the car too much, can you?
Yeah.
You feel where you lose time progressively, but you can't. There's no way we could immediately put that down to the tires until after we found out what had happened.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess that you would that you can feel that a little bit better in real life. So I guess that a real life race driver would feel a 6/10 difference, but in sim racing you don't have G forces, or you can't feel the car. You basically have to see everything, or you have a little bit of help with the force feedback, but that doesn't help that much to feel tire differences. So
no,
that's
it's all visual, isn't it?
yeah.
It's all you know. But he has just dropped into the 42s whilst we've been talking. So
Wow.
um, he's on my practice pace basically. Benny Benzel, he's dropped into second on a 43.7, and Darren King, who actually did a 43.4 in practice, um, has gone into third on a 44.1. Um, so I do feel a bit for Alberto tonight at Gimfrest because obviously the Bentley is not the car to have around Hungary, I don't think. Um, whilst it ride curbs and bumps very well and it's great on the brakes for a big car, it really doesn't like slow speed corners. And obviously Hungary has a lot of slow speed corners. Um, so it'll be interesting to see if he can improve on a 44.1.
Yeah, and also there's Steve Strelo, our current championship leader. I can tell you, as I'm a Lexus driver myself, that he can get into the. What did I do? I have to look again what I did drive on Wednesday in the qualifying. I did a 43.6. So that's definitely in the car. I guess that you can even drive a lot faster with the car, as I've not found the limit yet.
Yeah, I mean Steve's a quick driver, so I think um, he'll have a good chance of getting into the 43s as well.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and I think his whole focus this race will just be to finish ahead of Alberto Gimfrest. He he's leading the championship ahead of Alberto, and that's his main competition. So um, I think his aim will just be to solely finish ahead of him. And he's just popped into second place there. He's only a tenth off of you now, Fabian. He's gone to 43.7.
Oh,
So yes, you called it, and he's almost matched it.
yeah. And we still got 17 minutes to go, so he might be getting even faster.
Yeah, I think so. As the guys become more confident, and look just to push that extra little bit towards the end of the session. He might be able to gain a few more temps, 2 or 3, to solidify his second place.
Yeah, especially if you don't have tire issues like we two did.
Yes. Hopefully the guys have seen that in our Wednesday championship chat and are actively looking at their setup screen in between qualifying runs to make sure they are on fresh tyres.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with that also is that I don't know if you did that, but I started to question myself. Did I start to drop off in pace, or what happened? Because I didn't know if were the tires or if I selected the wrong setup. But I only knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know what was wrong. So I started to question myself.
I didn't question myself. I kind of wondered if my setup had got as the track, I wondered if as the track temperature dropped, because obviously we were getting into the afternoon at that point, and practice was earlier on in the day. I wondered if as the track temperature dropped, my setup just didn't suit the track temperature, which does have a big difference in lap time around here, especially. So I just wondered if my setup window had just disappeared, basically. But I knew I had very good race pace. So as long as I could obviously survived lap 1, I could obviously get my head down for 3rd place and look to push on. The one thing I have noticed is Oscar Ezerins, who was obviously an AM driver on the Wednesday race, he's entered as an AM driver in the Friday race as well, and he's also he's in the pole position at the moment for the AM class, again, with a 44.4, so he seems to be extremely quick for an AM driver. He's driving the Audi, obviously, which is, as Joe McCauley has shown, is a very quick car around here. But he's having a very good qualifying.
Yeah, exactly, and just as we talked about our qualifying issues, Steve Strelo put in another great lap as he surpassed my qualifying lap time by 2/10. He is currently in 2nd position, following Joseph McCauley, but there are still 6/10 to find for Strelo to get to McCauley's pace.
That is a big gap. I mean, Fabian, in the perfect lap, what do you think you could achieve with the Lexus?
I think Steve Strelo is already pretty close to a perfect lap time, at least with my pace. I don't think that I would have gotten any faster. Maybe 1-2 tenths faster, but 6 tenths is a little bit too quick.
Yeah, that's a sizable gap. He would have to have the lap of his life, I think, to get close to Joe, which isn't out of the question. I mean, he could tweak his setup quickly if he's not totally happy, and he might be able to, to achieve it. But yeah, it does seem that the Lexus has got a slight disadvantage over the Audi around here. And I think Assetto Corsa Composite Shoni. Am I right in thinking, Fabian, that every track has a different balance performance for different cars?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
so...
I guess that the Lexus is pretty balanced, so it can almost compete on any track. It isn't the fastest, I think, but well, I'm not one of the fastest drivers either, so I can't judge that properly. But I think that it's a really basic car, so it has no real flaws, but it has no real advantages either. It's a really basic car, and it really works almost on every track. I had some issues at Spa with the default setup, but Spa was the track where I had to put in the most setup work to let it work properly on it. But even then I managed to get it work properly. But
yeah, it's quite good in the wet, isn't it, Fabian, the Lexus?
Well, I'm not one of the best wet drivers, so I don't know if I can judge that. But
you're being very modest tonight, Fabian.
Well, some other drivers from other leagues have mentioned that the Lexus seems to be a really quick car in the wet, so I think we can believe them.
Yeah, it was certainly very quick in the wet at the esports event that me and Samir went to at the Nürburgring. So yeah, I think a lot of the Lexus drivers that had that event on their or that car on their rig were very happy. Um, I mean, just quickly, a big shout out to Christian Veal, who has managed to put the Porsche up into 8th place. Um, Obviously, we saw from Samir's driving on Wednesday, Porsche is not the best car around here. It does struggle a lot, but he's managed to do a 44.5, which is very good for the Porsche. So we'll see if he can. He's only a few hundredths away from Oscar Ezerins, and obviously only 3 tenths for Vicky. So be interesting to see if he could get close to the top 5.
Yeah, but the BMW also seems to not suit the track very well, so a big effort from Vicky there.
Yes, I totally agree. But you said she had found some setup changes that have helped her.
Yeah, so I guess she looked into the ride height settings a bit closely, or a bit closer for this race, and she seems to found something to help to balance her car. And she is also one of our most consistent drivers in these championships, so her strength is probably more in the race than in the qualifying, so to have a top 6 position would be quite good for her, I think.
Yes. Obviously, she's the only BMW in this race, so she is flying the flag for BMW. And I think I agree with you. I think a top 6 finish should be a great result for a car that quite clearly doesn't suit this type of circuit. She's obviously got a very wide car in the Bentley, and sorry, in the BMW, and I think she has very good defensive skills. So
Yes, exactly. She already defended herself from one of my attacks in Nürburgring, and I wouldn't have overtaken her if she didn't let me through, because she is a very hard defender.
And that's good racecraft. You know, she's got great racecraft, which will help her in the race. It's what makes her so consistent. You know, speed is nothing without racecraft and consistency. Obviously, if you do one fast lap, but then 10 poor laps after that in a race, it's going to really hurt you. So, being able to find a lap time that you can stick to the entire race is very beneficial in the long run.
Yes, exactly. And I just found out that I haven't mentioned the chat at all. So, hello chat, and hello Darth Jayski, I don't know how to pronounce your Twitch name, but hello. And if you've got any questions about this game, about this championship, about James Parker, or about me, Fabian Schmidberger, then you can ask them. We will try to answer them if we can. And also tell me if the sound settings are properly, or if I have to adjust them. Would be great to have good sound settings before we start into the race, because then everything should work properly. Alright, Darth already mentions that everything sounds good, so thank you for reporting that.
Good. It's hopefully we can provide them with some solid commentary work the next hour or so.
Yeah, and I think we didn't mention that it's your first time, James, to commentate on a race.
Yeah, talk about pressure. Simon asked me to do. I asked Simon if I could do this. I'm very intrigued. I obviously watched a lot of the streams when I'm not racing, and it seems obviously it looked very fun to watch the action and commentate on it at the same time. And so I thought I'd give it a shot and see how I am. So yeah, the chat, you can rate me 1 to 10 if you'd like on my commentary skills, and if I fail miserably, I'll know not to come back.
I don't think that you will fail miserably, because You have already shared some great insights um, to these races and to the cars as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like me and the Mercedes are like um, I've got to know it so well now because of how often I've driven it. I've driven other cars, obviously, but um, yeah, if you've got any questions regarding the Mercedes guys, chat, Fabian, whoever, I'll do my best to answer them tonight.
So we just looked at Joseph McCauley, who stopped his run, and I think we haven't done a lap guide so far. So just let's follow Steve Strelo there to do a lap guide on Hungaroring. So on the start-finish straight, you want to look for the Blancpain sign. Just brake a little bit before that, go over the right curb or touch it slightly. It's hard to get on traction on this corner. Oh, just as I wanted to start the lap guide, Steve abandoned his lap. So just, I will try to find another driver who is on another lap. Maybe John Frest is on to one. He's just in the last sector at the moment. So let's just follow him through that sector and through the last corners.
Fingers crossed he doesn't pull to the side. Let's see what he can do. Oh, yeah, Fabian,
we are so unlucky right now.
You're not having much luck tonight.
So then just let's follow Vicky, because it looks like that she's on a proper run. Alright, so the first corners I already mentioned, and then there's this hard part you want to brake as the curb starts and move to the inside, stay on the inside. Well, there are different racing lines. I prefer to stay on the inside, to hug the curb, then full throttle over the right curb, move a little bit over to the left to have a nice flow. You want to start braking on the where the curb starts, move over to the left curb. You really want to attack that corner, but also not too much. Then you come to the chicane, which is hard to get right, especially in qualifying, where you can basically cut everything. Wiki didn't show us how hard you can cut it, but you can pretty hard cut that. And then now my favorite section starts, the flowy parts of Sector 2, where everything just flows nicely like Sector 1 in Suzuka. You don't brake too hard, you don't throttle too hard. It's just a nice flow, and you can pretty much feel if you're on a good lap, if your flow is perfect. Then onto this corner, you want to stay on the inside. Just as this corner as well, you want to stay on the inside and start to throttle now and move over to the left curb to take the flow. And that was one lap, but I think I want to do another one if Vicky no, Vicky aborts it. Because as I just mentioned so much about the flowy parts, I didn't mention where to brake and where to accelerate, because I was such an awe of this corner section.
Yeah, there's some really tricky corners on this track to get right.
But they feel so lovely if you get them right.
Absolutely, and conversely, if you get them wrong, if you get, for example, in Sector 2 there, that switchback where you go left, right, left onto the fast turn 11, if you get one of those corners wrong, you're basically offline for 3 or 4 corners, so it just compounds the time loss. You just can't get back online quick enough to maximise your lap.
Yes, exactly. Just like Suzuka Sector 1. If you miss one corner, you basically miss the entire sector.
And obviously that's what you want to look for in the race, and that's how I got past Salvatore Amato in the end, because I pressured him in one of the right-handers leading on to the quick turn 11, and I just managed to close up just enough to get up the inside for the hairpin at turn 12. So in the race, I'll be looking for that, for people to apply pressure through that section, to obviously push someone offline and take advantage of the tight corner at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, and you have to put your opponent under pressure because it's really hard to overtake someone on this track. Even the straight doesn't help that much to overtake someone.
No,
Usually,
I mean,
usually you overtake someone, or you overtake someone with surprising him, basically. So
yes.
you choose a corner where you're really close and you just dive on to the inside where the opponent doesn't think that you might want to try a move.
Well, my favourite tactic normally is to try and get in their mirrors, but then if I know I'm quicker in certain sections, what I like to do is dart around behind them quite aggressively, so they're constantly having to watch their mirrors rather than watch their racing line. And obviously, if you've got their attention in the mirrors, they're going to be driving slowly because they're not paying 100% attention to the track ahead of them. So I like to throw the odd dart down the inside or down the outside if I'm preparing for a move, just to see how they'll react to one, but then also just to see how different they drive if they drive much slower. They're having to watch the mirrors. And then the moves I make aren't to overtake, they're just purely to distract them. And I did that a few times on Wednesday. It just puts them under pressure. If they can see someone behind in their virtual mirror or their real mirror, if they're using the correct field of view, they're conscious that you might dive. You know that there's that risk that you might send one down the inside. So they're constantly having to worry about that rather than worry about their driving. So yeah, especially around a track like this, where you can literally just run behind someone for the whole race and not have an opportunity to overtake. If there's a chance where you can actually force them into a mistake by, driving quite aggressively behind them to distract them, it's a good tactic to use.
Yes, exactly. And we just surpassed the time limit there. So the drivers who started their laps, like Zeliko Matsu, who started his lap just before the timer ran out, they can still finish their laps. So some of these drivers, like Zeliko Matsu, will try to get a better lap time. Or sometimes this doesn't work that well in ACC, I fear, because we just the session just stopped. But okay, that's okay.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of time there to go through the positions then, did we?
Yeah, so let's just go through the grid very quickly. Just choose the free camera very quickly, and then let's go through the grid. All right, so let's just put my tablet aside. So the driver who is on pole is on our left side now, so the left side of our broadcast right now. It's Joseph McCauley, who did it in great fashion. I think he was 6 tenths ahead of the second place. But I'm not that sure because sadly we can't see the times anymore, and I haven't taken a screenshot. But it was rather dominant, I guess, by Joseph McCauley. And he's followed by Darren King on the right-hand side with his Lamborghini. Then on the left side, the current championship leader Steve Strelo, followed by Benny Benzel in his Mercedes AMG GT3. On the left side, Oscar Azarens, the first guy for the AM class, and on the right-hand side, Alberto Gianfrest. On the left-hand side, Victoria Vicky in her BMW, and I just called her Victoria Vicky, which she doesn't like. Okay. Followed by Christian Wheel in the Porsche. Then in the left-hand side, David Santos and Nicolas Vrage. Then Libor Wodicka in the Ferrari, and Orpheus Badmoon, another amateur driver, in 12th position. On the left-hand side, Eric Engman and Magnus Hoffman follows him. Tommy Kallio-Kujala and Marco Winkler follow them. On 17th position, Tony Benninate, and he is followed by Tim Lauderman. Then I just have to scroll down my scoreboard to see the other names where I've been. The 19th position, another BMW, and he is followed by Celico Mazzo in the Ferrari. Then our only Nissan GTR, Nico Nellas, he is followed by Yuzo Gronmark in the Aston Martin. And then the last three are Ray Taylor, Mehmet Kara, and Nick Dealey on last position. So that's...
Vicky is going to be very angry with you after the race for calling her Victoria, Fabian.
Yeah, she will cut my head off.
I mean, who do you think is in? I mean, who do you think will win the race? You know, who's your bet before the race starts? Who do you think will take it?
Well, to have the pole is really crucial in Hungaroring, as we already mentioned in the qualifying session earlier. Overtaking is rather hard, so I guess that Joseph McCauley will have has already one hand at the first place, but we will have to look how well he starts and how well his race pace will be. But I guess that Joseph McCauley will win this one.
I think Darren King, his entire race will rest on turn one. So if he can nip ahead of Joseph going into turn one, if he's consistent enough, I think he'll be able to hold Joseph behind. Because his race pace in practice earlier looked quite good. But I agree, if Joseph gets to turn one in the lead, I think it'll be very difficult for the guys to overtake him. Unless he obviously suffers with tyres towards the end of the race, or else he has a mistake. But yeah, the Audi is quite quick in a straight line. Obviously, it shares the same underpinnings as the Lambo. So there's no real straight line disadvantage between the two of them. So yeah, I think Darren's best chance is to send it down the inside, or go around the outside into turn one at the start, and try and control the race from there.
Yeah, and maybe some of the guys in the second row will profit from the guys in the first row battling for the race lead. So, well, it will be quite hard, but I think that Joseph McCauley also has a great race pace, as he already has shown in Nürburgring in 2 weeks ago.
And I think Hungary's quite good on the first lap because turn one and turn two and turn three you can run side by side. So if Darren King and Joe McCauley get into a side-by-side battle through turn one and two and force each other wide, because it's very easy to go wide in turn two, isn't it, at the first lap?
Yeah.
You know, Steve Strelo and Benny Benzel could take advantage of that and hug the inside line and try and jump both. So yeah, I agree. It'll be very, very important going into turn one to get the track position. It seems crazy that we're talking about this a GT3 race. Normally it'd be a Formula One race where track position is king, but even in ACC around this track, track position is everything.
Cheers, Chris. He just wrote cheers, guys. Yeah, and he also said that he can't miss the start, and yeah, that's most likely the phase of the race where everyone, or where the most positions will be gained or lost.
So I'll keep an eye on the back of the pack going into turn one, Fabian.
Yep.
Just to see how the guys towards the rear end of the field get on through turn one and two, and I'll let you know if we have any incidents.
Yeah, and other than the races we had the weeks before, I can almost guarantee you that this race will stay dry.
No need to check tyres on this one.
Yeah, so I think everyone's on the slick tyres.
Well, I mean, you could run wets, but I don't think they'd last very long in a 40-degree track temperature, basically. I think.
Actually, if you like the sound of exploding tires, you can go with the wet tires.
Yeah, I have. Changeable weather has really worked against me in the last two rounds, so I was pretty happy to have a nice dry race on Wednesday. Um, both my gambles at Spa and at Nürburgring didn't pay off, where I lost 2 podium positions, funnily enough. So, yeah, I think the guys tonight will also be quite thankful that they just have a plain dry race that they can just focus on, rather than have to worry about strategy and tyres and rain at the
etc.
same time. Exactly, yeah. Do you run a dry or wet setup? Um, so yeah, I'll focus as the guys come around the final corners. I'll focus in the mid pack, and I'll leave it up to you, Fabian, to talk them round.
Alright, we are now in the second to last corner, following or coming into the last corner. This is now where Joseph McCauley will start to dictate the speed, and everyone has to follow him. And at the moment it looks very, very tidy. And now race start initialized, and once the green lights have emerged, and now they are, and everyone seems to have a great start. Steve Strehler already tries to go to the inside, but there's no room. And in the first 5 position it looked really clean, but there went a Porsche off and a Lexus, I guess.
I think Vicky got turned around again.
Oh no.
I think she has. We'll need to wait for the timing
Yeah,
screen to
she's on the
update.
back of the pack again. Oh no.
What a shame after Wednesday as well. Yeah, I think one of the Lexuses got in a little too hot into turn one on the outside, touched Hoffman, and then Hoffman turned into a Ferrari. I think it was Modica, and I think Vicky was just the unlucky bystander in that, unfortunately.
Just
she got
like in
turned
the
around.
Wednesday one.
Yes, I think she will be cursing, at home behind the wheel, because that did look rather unlucky.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the Wednesday one, she is again at the back of the grid. She will yell at her screen at the moment, just because she's so unlucky in the last few races.
But I think the top 7 were unaffected, or the top 8 were unaffected. So yeah, it was the middle of the pack where the chaos ensued there, which Hungary is quite a long way down to turn one, and I think it does Concertina up quite aggressively. So we kind of half expected a little bit of action, I guess, going into there. But that was at least 5 cars there that were affected, and I think Bad Moon was one of the guys, because he's down in 24th as well, Fabian.
Yes, I guess that he had an issue as well, because he started way further up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's carrying damage as well from obviously that crash at the start. Same with Vicky, whether she's managed to escape with just light damage, or she managed to escape completely without damage, would be obviously very lucky.
Yeah, and Vicky just after her incident, she spun because I guess her tires were too hot. So
Yeah,
even
it's
more time
very easy
lost.
to do. I've been there myself. You're angry, you try and get back on the track as quick as possible, and sometimes it's just easy to let the car rotate again, just with your haste and trying to get back on track to not lose so much time. But Alberto Gianfresti still was sick at the moment. He's quite close to Oscar Ezerin's in front, who in turn is challenging Benny Benzel for 4th.
Yeah,
That's,
a drive-through penalty for Alberto Gianfrest, because he cut the track. So I think he has to serve the drive-through penalty in maximum 3 laps. So
yes,
that's
correct.
the race done for him.
Wow. So he must have done that. Was it the chicane, did you say, Fabian?
I haven't looked at it at that moment, but I guess somewhere in the second sector, maybe Um, um,
Yeah,
I don't know exactly. I guess somewhere in the second sector.
I mean, to get a drive through straight off the bat, he must have cut the track pretty aggressively. Because obviously, normally if you have if you cut the track or run too wide, you obviously get 3 warnings, don't you? So
Yeah.
that must have been a pretty sizable cut that he did, intentional or not intentional. Obviously, he might have just had a mistake. Um, if he'd just braked too late into the chicane and gone straight through the chicane instead of try to make it, he might have obviously just gone through a little bit too quick, and the game's obviously recognised that he got a little bit of an advantage, which may be why he's got the drive through.
Yeah, and what we can pretty clearly see at the moment is what is rather typical for Hungaroring, as you can't really overtake someone. They are building some packs of cars. Like for example, at the front we've got the first 3 cars, rather close together, but Joseph McCauley already starts to build a little bit of a gap. Then we've got another pack of 3 drivers, with Benny Benzel, Oscar Azarens, and Alberto Gianfrest, but he has to serve the drive-through, so he won't be in top 6 in a few laps. Then we've got another pack of 3 cars and 3 drivers with Nicolas Vrage, Eric Engman, and David Santos. And then we've got another pack of 2 cars. So that's really typical for Hungaroring to have these packs of cars because they can't really overtake each other.
I think Tommy Koala is sizing up Marco Winkler into turn 1 here. He's pulled out the slipstream and used the Aston's grunt, and he's got him.
Yeah, we
He's up.
just joined him for that rather uh, I'm just missing the words right now. I hate it. For the rare overtake on Hungaroring, so now I've got it.
We'll get there. We'll get there tonight eventually. Well, I mean, it's a double whammy for Tommy Koala because obviously I think Alberto Gianfresta decided to serve his drive through almost instantly, so he's up to 9th now. So he's jumped 2 positions with Alberto in the pits.
Yeah, and Alberto came out in 20th position, so his race is pretty much done. To put it in context, Vicky, who spun on the first lap because she was maybe she has been touched. I didn't see it, but she is 2 places in front of Alberto Gianfrest. Just to give you an indication of how much time you lose when you have to serve a drive-through penalty. It's really hard.
Fabian, Joe's made a mistake. He is now down in 8th place.
Oh! Joseph McCauley, who was in 1st position, who started in pole position, is now in 8th position.
Correct, yes. Darren King is now leading with Steve Strelo in 2nd, so closely behind.
That reminds me a little bit, as Steve Strelo get. Oh! That was a great move! He just stick it into the inside. That was greatly done by Steve Strelo, who put Darren King for some laps now under pressure, and that was a great move from the championship leader.
He could not have positioned his car any closer to Darren King there. That was so close to contact.
And there's also an overtake attempt by Vicky against Ray Taylor, and he doesn't defend at all. So that's another position gained for Vicky. She should be in 17th position now.
And I guess the issue for Alberto Gianfresta as well is the fact that because now Steve is leading the race, and obviously he's his only competition in the championship, he's going to lose a lot of ground if he can't get back into some good points.
Yeah, exactly. If Steve just stays in 1st position, or if he just even manages to go on to get on the podium for this race, the championship is most likely almost decided by then. So
because we only obviously have 2 rounds left after this, don't we?
Yeah. So the other drivers would have to retire or don't compete for the other 2. Sorry, Steve would have to retire for the remaining 2 races, or don't even compete, so that the others can catch up to him.
Well, let's see. Let's see if Darren King can put the pressure back on. He obviously lost a little bit of time in that overtake.
There's much happening at the moment. Who is it? Oh no, already someone being leapt, I
Yeah,
guess.
I think that's Madzo.
Yep.
I think he went in the pits. I don't know if he had damage, so he's obviously unfortunately getting lapped by all of the leaders at the moment.
So what I wanted to say earlier when Steve Strelo or when Darren King took the lead from Joseph McCauley because he made a mistake, that reminded me a little bit of the Porsche race 2 weeks earlier, where Ibrahimi was in a very good lead of 5 seconds and then he spun in those really hard conditions. Um, I think he managed to get the win.
Yeah, I unfortunately spun behind Giacomo Peretti whilst challenging for the lead and lost 12 seconds. So unfortunately, I dropped down to third and I ran out of time to recatch him after I'd spun. But Samir put in a very good race, yeah. So let's see if Darren can do a similar job that Samir did and fight back. Um, let's see what happens. But he's already dropped back. He's 3.7 seconds behind Steve Graylow now. So Steve is making a big jump. Um, and I guess it'll be down to Joseph Cawley to try and work the traffic as best as he can, and see if he can pull off a similar race to I did on Wednesday, and close down Steve towards the end of the hour.
And it looks like that Joseph McCauley is under pressure. Oh no, he overtook David Santos, I guess. Yeah,
Yes.
because David Santos made a mistake.
And Darren King's in the pits, so I don't know if he has made another mistake and got damage.
Yeah, that shouldn't be his usual strategy.
No, no mandatory pit stops tonight. So yeah, I think he must have made a mistake and hit the wall somewhere. Because there'd be no other reason for him to be going into the pits at the moment.
Or maybe he didn't get his fuel right and just put in enough fuel for a quali run.
I tell you what, that could be the case because he is coming back out, and that was a very quick stop. So he may have started on his quali fuel, which is, disastrous because it's now dropped into the back of the field.
And it looks like that we already lost the driver with Orpheus Badmoon. He doesn't appear in the standings anymore.
I think he's actually quit the server.
Yeah,
Because Nick Dealey is in the pits and he's 24th, and I think Bad Moon isn't showing on my timing screen anymore.
yeah.
So let's see if there is. So David Santos, Tommy Kayokoala, Marco Winkler, and Adika are quite close together. Eric Engman is right behind Braga as well. And Joseph McCauley has just jumped onto the back of this group as well.
Yeah, let's just have a look at the cockpit perspective of Joseph McCauley. So, what he maybe what would like to do is to show himself in the mirror of Eric Engman, so that he puts him a little bit under pressure, just like James told you earlier in the qualifying. It's all about what is happening there. Did Eric Engman catch a penalty?
I think maybe he knew that Joseph was quicker
Oh,
than him.
that might be it.
And I think rather than lose time and fight Joseph hard and end up costing them lots of time, both of them, and obviously affecting Eric's race, let Joseph go and try and fight Braga when Joseph inevitably overtakes him as well. I think that's sensible because uh, McCauley has obviously shown that he is the fastest driver so far based on qualifying, and um, I think Eric's just looking to maximise his race, and if he's risking an accident if he fights Joseph too hard. I just think it's smart race management. he's obviously already fallen away by a second nearly. So yeah, wait for Macaulay to overtake Braga and then get back on Braga's tail.
So they are both in the Audi, so that will make it a lot harder to overtake someone because you can't really rely on your strength of your car because you've basically the same car. The only thing that is different is the setup and the driver.
Yeah, I think he's lining himself up though. He's in the slipstream now, going down into turn one. I think he's going to pull out at the last second. There we go.
And he
And
goes for the dive. And is it enough? Um, Nicholas will have a little bit more traction, but it isn't enough to defend himself from Joseph Macaulay. And that was
no,
a really solid move from Joseph.
yeah,
As,
he covered the inside line going into turn two, and Braga had nowhere to go. So yeah, he's up to fourth now. Oh, and
as
Eric,
Eric is just spinning, losing traction
I
in a
think
very
he
hard
hit
corner.
the inside curb too much, and it unsettled the car. Obviously, that inside curb in turn three is quite aggressive if you catch it too much, and I think it spun him round. Unfortunately, because he was in a great position.
Yeah, and now he lost many positions. Even Victoria just managed to overtake him. So Vicky just managed to get back to P13. At one point, she was P25 at the start of the race, where she was turned around and also spun on her own because most likely her tires were too hot. But she is catching the top 10 quite quickly.
Yeah, and her best lap time so far is a 45.5, which is there's only 4 drivers so far that have posted quicker lap times in the race, so her pace is very good.
And she already also posts some really consistent lap times, as her last lap time is only 2/10 down on her best lap time. So we might see her climbing the top 10 in the future minutes.
Mm. But look at Oscar Ezerins, our top AM driver, and he's in P3, incredibly. Um, his last lap time was a 45.2, and he's right on the tail of Benny Benzel.
Yeah, I guess he wasn't involved in any incidents. He just kept his head out and his car as well, just very cleanly driving behind Benny Benzel, and that is
And I think,
something that gets you promoted to the pro class very quickly if he does that occasionally.
yeah, and I think he'll be very smart just to let obviously Joseph Macaulay go through because Joe's in a completely different class. He's obviously got 4 positions over the next AM driver, which is Marco Winkler in P8. So rather than fight Joe Macaulay too hard, I think it'll just be good race management to let him through and focus on consolidating his lead over the next AM driver.
And Vicky is in a battle with John Frest now, but I think John Frest got closer to Vicky because he lost his position to her when he went into the pits. So now Vicky is under pressure.
Yeah, I think he came out a couple of seconds behind her on the end of lap 2, so he's fought back up to the back of the BMW, and as we've already discussed, Vicky's defensive skills are very good, and the BMW is good in the straight lines. This is going to be difficult for Jen Press to overtake her.
And most likely he would want to try a move in a braking zone, because what I know is that the BMW features very poor brakes in comparison to the other cars.
Yeah, and I think the braking performance on the Bentley is actually one of its best assets. It's a very good car on the brakes, so I think he'll be looking to do the move in the next couple of laps if he can get close enough.
So what you just saw from Alberto is he tried to get himself shown in Vicky's mirror as he swirled a little bit to the middle of the track and right back to the left lane. just to put a little bit more under pressure, as it is really hard to overtake. So you have to force your opponent to make a mistake.
I think Darren King has left the server. He is showing us in the pits, but I can no longer click on him, and he is no longer in the timing screen. So,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I don't. Yeah, he's out of this race. So maybe he left because he didn't have any. Uh, what did I wanted to say? Yeah, I just can't click on him too. So
yeah, I think it's a big shame because obviously he was very quick in qualifying, and to get P2 just behind Joe McCauley, I think he would have looked to challenge him, especially after he inherited the lead after Joe's mistake. If it was simply a case of not putting enough fuel in the car, I think yeah, it's very unlucky for him because he could have had a very strong race. But Steve up front has got nearly a 10-second lead over Benny Benson now. He is looking very comfortable.
and Joseph McCauley is right on Oscar Azarin's tail, so they don't fight. They don't really fight for position as they're in different classes. So Joseph McCauley won't gain any places or any points if he overtakes Azarins. But he would want to overtake Azarins as he wants to catch up to Benny Benzel. But a mistake like that won't hurt that much.
I think Joe will be looking to get past him as quickly as possible. Obviously, Steve Stralo's building a nice lead at the front now. And with only kind of 39 minutes left, we're almost approaching halfway already. He'll want to try and get some clean air to pump in some fast lap times.
Yeah, and that puts him really under pressure that Strelo is already so much ahead. And Benny Benzel also has a little gap of 2.5 seconds. And it's one thing to catch a driver but on this track, but it's another to overtake someone.
Yeah, and especially Benny Benzel's obviously driving the Mercedes, which has good good top speed and acceleration. So it's not going to be like Joe has a great advantage in that respect. Yeah, one thing is obviously catching up to Benny, but next thing will be to pass him. I think Joe's just got past him.
Yep, I think Azarens made some space for Joseph there to not be in the way for him, because as we already stated, they are in different championships. So it makes no sense for Oscar to block Macaulay's way. And just would make him angrier.
And that's just showing good intelligence. You know, he can see that Joseph is in a different class, and rather than risk getting crashed into or having a collision, he's just letting go.
Yeah, exactly. It would be a different scenario if Oscar Zarens actually would be under pressure, but the next driver in his class is around 9 to 10 seconds behind him, which is Marco Winkler. So he isn't really that much under pressure. So if Marco Winkler would be right on his tail, he wouldn't have done that, obviously, because then Marco Winkler would have a chance to slip through as well, and that would have been dangerous for Joseph, for Oscar Zarens.
And I think Alberto, it says the gap is now down to half a second, and I'm just looking at the action now. There's certain parts of the track where Vicky pulls away, and then other parts where Alberto closes right back on him. So I think this will be the tail of the race now, if he can force Vicky into making a mistake.
Yeah, and we've got a nice three-way battle for 18th position with Yuso Gronmark, Ray Taylor, and Tony Beninate. So it's 18th position overall, but in the AM standings it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th position. So quite a lot of points for them. And
absolutely.
Tony Beninate, our webmaster, is putting Ray Taylor heavily under pressure.
Yeah, he had a big look up the inside of Ray Taylor into turn 12 just then, and I think he's going to try and line Ray up for a move into turn 1.
Oh, and Ray Taylor moves to the inside. It looked like that he wanted to let Beninate past, but it could have been a mistake as... Ah, no, I think he did it deliberately.
I
Because...
didn't see a big kick of oversteer going onto the pit straight there. I think
Yeah, I think he just let him past.
so. That releases obviously Tony Beninate to attack run mark.
And we've got another battle with Libor Wodicka and Team Laudemann. One in the Ferrari and one in the Porsche.
Yes, this looks like it's heating up quite nicely. Tim Louderman's all over the back of the Ferrari.
Yeah, so he just has to try to be as close as possible in these last two corners to get him on the straight.
And the Porsche's obviously good traction, we all know that. So we look to get a good exit off the final corner there. I think he's just a bit too far away going into turn 1.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to try a dive bomb because dive bombs are quite risky.
Yes, and obviously that's the end of your race then if you make a mistake.
Okay, let's have a short look at Wiki because my broadcasting tool just suggested that there's a very close battle as well with John Frest. So John Frest still tries to put her under pressure.
Yeah, he's trying absolutely everything behind Vicky to position the Bentley to get into a chance to overtake. He seems to be much better in this part of the track, or the Bentley does, than the BMW. But in the back end of sector 2, the BMW decides, it stretches its legs a little bit. So through this tightest portion of the track, the Bentley can really close up, especially through the chicane there. Look. But then as we progress through sector 2, Vic can just pull a little bit of a gap away from Jim Frest.
And
A little bit wide there though.
both drivers are struggling for grip in that corner. And he tries to go to the outside.
See if he can undercut Vicky.
Oh, and he just tried to do a move that I did when I tested or practiced with Vicky, because I practiced with Vicky to let her defend my attacks, so that she can be prepared for this race to defend. And that was one spot where I tried to do a big dive bomb, and I guess that she closed this the gap for that corner because we practiced that.
she knew what was coming already.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, she'll need to make that BMW extremely wide now because Alberto's just looking more and more dangerous behind.
And no wonder she calls her BMW very lovely the tank, because it is a really big car and she makes it even bigger with her defensive moves. So really great work from her defending from John Frest. This is usually where Vicky really shines. She's really consistent and also really good at defending.
And I mean, John Frest is a very good driver. He's very quick, and he's quite aggressive. I've had a few battles with him on track the last few rounds, and he'll be giving it absolutely everything behind it to make a move.
Yeah, didn't John Frest win in Nürburgring in the Wednesday Championship?
He did, yes. So unlike me and Chris, who chickened out on wets and pitted for slicks halfway or early on in the race, Alberto actually braved it on the wets from the start of the race and finished on wets, and that's what won him the race. So by protecting his wet tyres for the hour and driving consistently, he managed to survive with overheating tyres and won the race. So
And we've just got a message from the stewards that Mehmet Kara in his Lexus, who is currently driving in 21st position, got a drive-through penalty for cutting the track too often. That won't change much about his position because he's already second to last, with Matsu being 2 laps behind him. But it's a shame, even though, because usually having a clean race is always a good race.
absolutely, and I'm not sure if you were on the following Vicky and Alberto on the stream there, Fabian, but Vicky actually put her indicator on and moved over to the inside the tracks. I think let Alberto through.
Ah, no, I didn't catch that, but thank you for noticing that.
So she's let Alberto go, and she's dropped down to 14th place.
Yeah, so that seems to be a pattern of her, because she did that with me in Nürburgring as well. So she
Wow.
tried to defend for a few laps and then she let me through.
So Joe is fighting Benny for P2. He's on the outside.
Alright, I'm onto that. Good defensive
Wow.
move by Benny Benzel, but it's nice switchback from the Audi driver.
Yeah, as Benny can cover the inside though. Let's see if he can brake late enough. Oh, this is going to be close.
Macaulay comes a little bit wide and they touch, but the Mercedes driver gets the line and he gets a little bit too wide. You should watch out now, because if he does that too often, he will get a penalty. But that was great defensive driving from Benny.
Yeah, so you'll just have to watch the track limits, because you do get penalised if you go too wide there.
And we just got a message from Darth Drisky, or I think I just call you Darth because it's easier to pronounce.
I think that's Yuri. That's Yuri.
Yuri, okay. So he asked what happened to Vicky. Vicky had an incident in turn 1. She got spun around, I think. I didn't catch it on the stream, so, but she spun around and then her tires got most likely hot and she spun on her own again. So that was a rather unfortunate first lap for her. That's why she tries to fight back on the grid. And well, if you just meant the move from the move from John Frest overtaking Vicky, well, I think she just let him through and didn't want to impede him too much.
So Joe's got a great run onto the pit straight here.
Exactly,
Fabian.
as Benny Benzel tries to cover the inside, but the Audi has great traction on the outside. And it looks like that he has made the move, because he's got the inside now.
Yep, I think he's going to have that done. That managed to obviously do the undercut and get far enough ahead before turn 2.
Yeah, that was a perfect maneuver. Let's look if Benny Benzel can re-overtake him. But I guess that Joseph Macaulay will be a bit faster than him, as he also caught up and now overtaking him. So that means that he usually should be a lot faster than him.
Absolutely. So what's the gap now? It's 17.7 seconds. So Joe's got to get his skates on and try and close down that gap. But he's going to have to hope for Steve to either make a mistake, I think, or hope his tyres go off towards the end of the race, because I don't think his pace advantage is enough to gain those 17 seconds in 26 minutes.
Yes, exactly. I guess we still have around 17 laps to go. We did 18 laps. We are around the halfway mark, so I think 16, 17 laps to go. That means that Joseph Macaulay should gain a second a lap, and that's really hardcore.
Yes. I will definitely be congratulating him if he could do that, because that is a mammoth task. especially around here. But let's see, Steve's last lap was a 45.2. So let's see what Joseph can do when he gets his first lap in clean air.
It looks like that it was a 45.5, but I...
That did include the overtake, obviously, though. So
okay. Then I just mixed it up.
yeah, so let's see. Let's see what he can do now. He's obviously got clean air ahead of him. Let's see if he can get back into the 44s. Eric and Vicky are also very close at the moment. They're separated by only half a second.
It looks like that Alberto Gianfrest managed to overtake Xavier Eugeni. Well, I'm not that sure if he overtook him, because I don't know if if Eugenie was in front of Gianfrest.
He was, yes, he was. So,
okay, perfect.
And I think he's now going to come under pressure from Vicky as well, and Eric England behind. So
yeah, exactly.
So I think Vicky will be looking to try and dispatch Eugenie as fast as possible, so as to not to come under attack from Eric England behind.
Yeah, but Vicky is in a rather unlucky spot there, because she is in the middle of a three-way battle, and the guy in front of her is another BMW, so that makes it a bit harder to overtake. And she can't focus solely on the to overtake the BMW in front, because she already is under pressure from the Porsche, from the Mercedes behind her, from Eric Engman. So
yeah,
but she's really close now.
Yeah, and Eric's dropped back a little bit. He's just run a bit wide. So he's dropped back by a second or so.
Okay, so last lap times from Strelo and Macaulay. Strelo, there, here, Eugenie lets her past, because he's obviously in the AM class. So nice racecraft there from him to let both of these drivers through.
Yeah, he's currently holding P5 at the moment in the AM class. So they're obviously pro drivers. They're not in his race.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say, the last lap time from Strelo was a 45.3, and the last lap time from Macaulay was a 44.7. So around half a second faster, but that's not enough to catch Strelo.
No, he's going to need a bit more than that. But let's see what happens if Steve is constantly in the 45s and just slowly gets slower and slower, and Joseph can keep up the 44 6s and 7s. He might be able to swing it enough, but at this present moment, yeah, I think it's going to be. He's probably going to have around 5 seconds at the line. I think he probably close about 10 or 11 seconds, but that's about it. And in fact, there was only a tenth of a second between them on that lap.
Yeah, so most likely Joseph McCarty won't get him on pure pace. He has to hope that Steve Jalo cooks his tires, or does a mistake on his own, or maybe gets held up by one of the back markers.
I mean, Albert Sultan on Wednesday, he actually got hit by a back marker during the race, which cost him a few seconds, which dropped him behind Chris Hokie. So, you know, if that happens to Steve tonight, that could give Macaulay the chance to close up enough.
And we've got a nice three-way battle, or is it a three-way battle on 10th position between, who is it?
Lauderman, Bielan,
and Woditska, I guess. So Woditska seems to got passed by both cars in front, because I don't know why.
And I think Biel has just overtaken
Lauderman
as well. Yes, so Biel's just taken 9th place, and he'll be on the hunt for Winkler next. I'll tell you what, who has had a very consistent and strong race so far is Tommy Kaliokuala. He's stayed out of trouble and he's actually up to 6th place in the Aston Martin.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I think he qualified towards the bottom end of the top 10, didn't he, Fabian?
I don't know. I didn't memorize that.
Same with David Santos. He's up to 5th.
Yeah, I think he was one of the drivers who had some issues in the first few laps, but it looks like that he has now everything under control. Okay, so now I think is a good time to go through the whole grid, because there are no very close battles. So we've got now Steve Strelo in the first position, and he is controlling the race rather comfortably with a 16.4 gap to Joseph McCauley, who is in the Audi and who was already great in the qualifying, but he most likely did a mistake in one of the first laps, which caused him to move to 8th position, and from there on he had to move through the grid, had to overtake some drivers. That's why he lost massive time to Strelo. And he is followed by Benny Benzel, who just got overtaken by McCauley a few laps ago, but he had a great defending move a lap earlier before he got overtaken. Then we've got a really solid drive from Oscar Izerins, who is in the first spot for the AM drivers, and he's doing really great at the moment. And if he stays like this, if his performance stays like this in the remaining races, then I think he will be a pro driver once. And then after him there's David Santos, who is in 5th position overall and in 4th position for the pro drivers. Had some issues at the start of the race, but he settled down a bit and has everything under control now. He's followed by Tommy Kaliokuala, who is a few seconds behind him, so both of these drivers have no pressure whatsoever. They are followed by Nicolas Rage, who has to lap car. I think that's Orpheus Orpheus Bednoon doesn't race anymore, so that's Mehmet Kara most likely. Nicolas Rage had some battles at the start of the race, but now he doesn't have much pressure anymore. There's Marco Winkler behind him in 8th position, but he is 2 seconds behind him, and he's in another championship, so there won't be much pressure from Winkler for Nicolas Rage. Then behind him there's Christian Wheel in 9th position or in 7th position for the Pro class. And after him another Porsche driver, Tim Laudemann, who is 3rd position in the AM class. He is followed by Alberto Gianfrest, who was in the top 6 in qualifying, I guess. But he cut the track in the 2nd lap and had to do a drive-through. That's what cost him big time. And he battled a bit with Vicky before, but she let him through. Then we've got Libor Wodicka, who is in 12th position or in 4th position for the AM class. Then there's our unlucky bird, Vicky, who is really unlucky. She already was really unlucky in the Wednesday race where I punted her off the track, and now she got punted again. So let's hope for more luck in the next few races for her. Then behind her there's Eric Engman, and they are actually fighting for position. So Eric is 1 second behind her. Maybe there will be a nice battle in the future minutes. He's closing down a bit, so he's 8/10 behind Vicky at the moment. Then there is the next and only BMW after Vicky. It's Xavier Eugeni, if I pronounced that right, but I guess I didn't. He's in 15th position, or if I count right, in 5th position for the AM class. And then we have only got AM class drivers left with Anthony Benenate, our webmaster, Jusso Gronmark, sorry, in 17th position, Ray Taylor in 18th position, Nico Nellas in 19th position with the only Nissan GT-R 2018, Magnus Hoffmann in 20th position, Zeliko Matzo in 21st position, Mehmet Kara in 22nd position, and we've got some drivers who retired, like Darren King, who was in 2nd position in the qualifying, but he had to go to pit rather early in the race, so James and I assumed that he might have had the qualifying fuel for the race, or maybe he got some damage. We don't know rather sure, but these have been our assumptions. Then there's Orpheus Badmoon, who might have had another rather unlucky race where he maybe got crashed out. And then there's Nick Dealey, who also has retired, but I unfortunately don't know anything about his retirement. So that was the entire grid. Yeah, good afternoon, Honeyboys GT Racing Project.
Whilst you were running through the grid for the viewers, I was keeping an eye on the lap times at the front, Fabian, and for the last 2 laps, Steve and Joseph have been trading lap times, so no big inroads have been made. So with 15 minutes to go, I fear that Steve Strelo has got this sewn up. Not to give him obviously the commentator's curse or anything, which I'm very sorry, Steve. Now, if you watch this back and you have made a mistake, but yeah, he looks to have this one under control.
Yeah, I'm guilty of the commentator's course as well, because I guess it was in Brands Hatch or some. I'm not that sure anymore, but I think every time I watched someone in qualifying, he just crashed. So that's the commentator's curse for me.
Alberto is glued to the back of the Porsches now. Tim Lauderman and Christian Veal. Lauderman has just pulled over to the side to let Alberto through, so he's now going to chase after Christian Veal.
And that's for a real position for the championship as well.
Correct, yes, whereas Lauderman is an AM driver, so he is obviously just let Gianfres go.
So that looks like this might be our closest battle right now. I have a quick look at what happened with Victoria. Oh, I said it again. With Vicky and Eric Engman. Vicky pulled a bit away from Engman, so she's not that much under pressure anymore. So let's get back to Christian Wheel and Alberto Gianfres, and there's a drive-through for Magnus Hoffmann in 20th position. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's our 3rd drive-through of the race now. I imagine that'll be for track limits, which obviously is easily done around here because they do seem to be quite harsh on Hungaroring, don't they? Apart from the chicane, obviously, which you can abuse, but elsewhere on the track it is very strict.
Yeah, and there's another message by Honeyboys GT Racing Project. He's telling us, at the moment I'm signing up to your website. Is it possible to take part on your running championship, or do you already got a full grid? So I think we've got a full grid, but you can join as a reserve, and usually you can also race if you're ready for one race, because our reserves can fill up the gaps, because usually we have quite many sign-outs for all the races. Usually there are 6 or 7 sign-outs for every race, so there is a chance that you can race as a reserve.
Yeah, Gianfres has just taken Christian Veal there. Fabian, so he's now up to 9th, and Marco Winkler is next up on his radar.
Yeah, Marco Winkler seems to be 3 seconds ahead, or around 2.5 seconds. But that isn't for position, so the next one for position is Nicolas Rage, who's another 8.3 seconds, so in total around 10 to 11 seconds away. I don't think that he will catch Rage, because
No.
his time will run out.
Yeah, we're into the last 10 minutes nearly now, so about 5 or 6 laps left at most. So I don't think he'll be able to get make any more progress after taking 8th position from Marco Winkler if he reaches him.
Yeah, exactly. The same goes for the battle with Strelo and Macaulay. Strelo actually managed to extend his gap a little bit. It's at 18.1 seconds at the moment. So I don't think that Macaulay will catch him.
No, I think that's that consistency that Steve obviously has shown in other races so far this season. It's coming out, and obviously his lap times are very consistent at the moment. They're between 44.7s and 45 flats. So he's just lapping metronomically.
So another message. Oh, before we do that, there's another. Oh no, there's just the message for car 4 to serve the drive-through for track limits in 1 lap time. So that was for Magnus Hoffman. So he has to get in pit in this lap, I guess. Or I don't know how the system counts it.
I think if he doesn't pit now on this lap, he'll be disqualified. Yeah. So I think this is his last warning, basically, to come into.
Okay, so to get back to the message from Hannibal's GT Racing project, I need to read in a bit, but thanks for the info so far. I hope you're forgiving me. My English isn't perfect at all. I'm from Germany. Then we share something, because I am German as well, and my English isn't perfect as well. So you're in good company. And
Fabian, feel free to just speak fluent German to our chat visitor if you need to.
Well, but then all the other guys can't understand me. But well, you are actually one of many Germans. I made the effort to count all the nationalities in all the ACC leagues that we have in our leagues so far, and Germany is the most dominant country in our league, with I think 24 drivers or something like that.
Yeah, that led to an interesting discussion on our Discord, didn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Well, that went off topic very quickly. Yeah, that was interesting.
I don't want to say that we started a Discord war, but maybe we did a small war, a small battle, maybe a one-day battle, if I would say so.
Yeah, we all responded.
Well, it was a rather how would I say well, I'm now missing the words again. I want to say private, but that's not the word I'm searching for. What is the word? Peaceful. That was the word I was looking for. So a rather peaceful battle, I would say. So between the English and the German guys.
Of which we are greatly outnumbered. I think there's only, 4 of us or 5 of us, Fabian, on your list? Or is there slightly more than that?
There are more Britons than that. I might have a short look at that list, as there are no battles whatsoever.
Oh, Marco Winkler just got a drive-through for track limits as he went through turn 11.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so Gianfres is glued to the back of his bumper now, but I don't think he'll need to worry about overtaking, because I think Winkler will pull into the pits.
So to catch up to that nationality discussion again, we have currently 22 Germans in all three leagues. So in the ACC Wednesday Championship, in the Friday Championship, and in the Porsche Cup as well. And there are 18 Britons. So
Oh, okay. I don't know where I got that number from. Then I have no idea why I thought there was so few. That was. I must have got confused.
and I would like to tell you that we're even dominating the cars in ACC as well, with our BMWs, with our Audis, with our Porsche. Have I
Yeah, I
forgotten
did.
one? Mercedes, yeah, the one that you're
I did.
driving.
Yeah, I did say it was ironic that I'm actually winning a race in a German car.
Just like Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah. That's and who knows? Mine and Chris's teammate rivalry might escalate to a Hamilton Rosberg level if we have too many more incidents.
And then we got another episode of Capgate, where maybe one of your drivers is throwing the cap to the other driver.
Hopefully, it doesn't reach that level.
But if you do that, you have to record that, please.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm actually. I think it's the plan that me and Chris are going to be going to the Spa 24 Hours next year together. So if it does escalate, we can obviously record it when we're there.
As esports drivers or as visitors for the actual race?
So we're doing it as visitors, but obviously if we qualify on the leaderboard, we can just do the esports event whilst we're there. So.
Oh, that's great. I might join you because we can maybe do our first Redline Motorsport meetup there. That would be great.
Yeah, and if we can find a sim racing cafe, we could do a little Redline event as well, maybe.
Oh, that would, or maybe go karting.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
But I think we have to get back to the racing again because we got rather off topic. But yeah, there's not much happening at the moment, so
Well, our closest gap, I think, at the moment is Braga and Jeanfres. So Alberto has actually managed to close up to within 1.9 seconds with 3 minutes 50 seconds to go. So
apart from our prediction, he got actually rather close to Braga.
Yes.
Looking at his last lap time, it was a 45.6. And Vrage did a 46.7, so around a second faster. So Janfres is around a second faster than Vrage. So maybe we will even see a surprise move where we see Nico Nellas pointing.
It's facing the wrong way. Yes. It was good of him to stay there though, rather than try and obviously come back onto the track. With all the cars coming through, so
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He did everything perfectly. He was off track. He didn't move, so he did everything perfectly.
Yeah, and I think it was just a small mistake in turn 11 there. So hopefully he'll be able to rejoin safely. But yeah, the gap is now down to, as we cross the line, 1.1 seconds. So I think with 3 laps remaining, 2 laps remaining maybe, 2 or 3 laps, I think Alberto will have a chance to overtake him.
Yeah, let's just have a look at where Steve Strehler is. So he might, can actually do another 2 laps if he completes this one. So for Alberto Janfres, it's around 2.5 laps chances to overtake Brage. And I guess that he might want to do that rather aggressively to secure that 7th position.
Absolutely, because obviously there's only 1 or 2 opportunities where you can pass on this track. So coming into the last sector, I think that will probably be his best opportunity before the finish line.
And there's a drive-through for car number 117. But he got that already a few laps earlier, I guess, because he only has 1 lap left to serve that. Or is it because the race is that late?
I'm not sure, because he's already down in 15th, Marco, I think, where he served that drive-through already. So I'm not sure if he's picked up another one.
Yeah, you're right, he already had one.
So I'm not sure if he's cut the chicane too aggressively or something and picked up an instant drive-through. after he'd come back out.
And as we were talking about the drive-through for Winkler, look at how close John Frest got to Rage there. He's only 6/10 behind him. And let's look if he is patient and tries to do it in the last lap, or if he already wants to go for the dive in that lap. Oh, he actually, there was a gap, and Nicolas Rage would have him. He wouldn't have defended that hard, I guess, because he left much space there on the inside. But
I think Braga just opened the steering up a little bit to make sure he got a good exit and gave Jim Frest the inside line because he knew he'd have less momentum coming off the corner.
Oh, you might be right, yeah, sure.
Because into turn 2 he would be on the inside line anyway if he stayed out wide. But I think Jim Frest will be looking to put a move on Braga in the final part of the lap because he's obviously overtaken Christian Veal once into the penultimate corner, so he knows he's good there. So let's see if he can make another move stick.
And we just got the message from the stewards that we are on that the leaders on the final lap. So John Frest has around 1.5 laps left to overtake to overtake Rage.
And I think Hoffman there had made a small mistake as he's gone back to the pits. Yeah, here we go. Jim Frest is looking up the inside. He's not close enough this time. They're going into the penultimate corner. Let's see how aggressively Braga defends going into turn 1 now, being the last lap of the race.
He's so close there.
You know, the Bentley's it's got good grunt down the straight, so let's see what he can do in the slipstream. How does Braga pull to the inside to cover the line?
He has to, otherwise John Frest goes for the... No, he doesn't. Or maybe he goes for a little bit of a switchback.
Or, yeah, I think Braga just got a slower exit look and
that
John
was
Frest has got him.
Perfect move by John Frest. Perfectly executed. Wow. And then on the last lap of the race, just like you did, almost, in the Wednesday's race.
Yeah, I felt quite bad for Tony because obviously he'd won the race or led the race from start to finish. So for me to go and mug him on the penultimate lap of the race, I did feel quite bad at the end because I would have been very annoyed as well. But yeah, Steve.
Steve managed to win it. Perfectly done. 18 seconds ahead of Joseph McCauley. Just perfect drive from him. He started on third, but managed to get to first with perfect consistency and a really good pace. He's followed by Joseph McCauley. Oh, sorry, I wanted to cut you.
No, that's fine. I was going to say Joseph must be kicking himself about that mistake early in the race because obviously the pace was very similar between him and Steve, and he had track position. So if he hadn't have made that mistake, he obviously would have probably won the race in the end.
Yeah, exactly. He would he has to be rather angry with himself there, because he lost the race on his own. Well, most likely on his own. I haven't seen a replay where he spun out or something, but I guess it was his own fault.
I don't think there was any traffic at that point in the race either to interrupt him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looked like it was just a small mistake that obviously cost him the 16 seconds that he needed.
He had one in Misano. Then there's Oscar Azarins, who had a brilliant race as an AM driver, and I don't think that he's an AM driver for a long time, because he was better than most of the pro drivers there, with a perfect drive, a perfect consistency, and not slow either.
No, and he had a very strong race on Wednesday as well, Fabian. So I think based on his performance, he'll definitely be upgraded to a pro driver soon enough.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's David Santos on 5th position. Rather unexciting race in the second half, I guess. Very huge gap to the front, huge gap to the back. So a huge gap to Tommy Kuyala, and he also had a huge gap to the next driver, who is Alberto Gianfrest, who managed to get at least back to P7. I guess he wanted to win that race, and he maybe could have won that race, but he picked up a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, that's a good recovery. I mean, he was P20 after the drive-through on lap 2, so to get back to P7 is a good result.
Yeah, exactly. So he, especially on a track like that,
Absolutely.
and I want to cover the other positions as well, but I want to show you the leaderboard as well, that you can have a look with me. But I have to prepare that very quickly. I'm not too used to all the streaming stuff at the moment, but I'm getting a bit better. Stream after stream.
We're a slick operation, aren't we?
Of course, I have to save the picture. I think I do it a bit differently. So let's just do it that way. Do it that way. All right, perfect. Full screen on the browser.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that race and enjoyed our commentary. I had a lot of fun there. It was good watching.
Yeah, it was also fun commentating with you. You've been a great co-commentator, and even for your first time commentating, that was brilliant. So
Well, thank you very much, Fabian.
something to be proud about.
That's yeah. Maybe I can do it again in the future.
So all right, I've got the screenshot there for the remaining positions. I've stopped with John Frest, who had an impressive drive back to P7. I think he was once in P22 or something like that. So really great drive from him. Then there's Christian Wheel in his Porsche. He got overtaken by John Frest in the later stages of the race, but nonetheless he got 8th position, which gives him a lot of points. Then there's Nicolas Vrage. Oh, I think Nicolas Vrage got overtaken by Christian Wheel as well, because we've been quite focused on the battle between John Frest and Vrage on the later stages. And
Yes,
I think he overtook Wheel way before. So Wheel has to have overtaken Vrage in the last lap.
yeah, but I mean, I'm surprised we missed that because he obviously Gemfrest wasn't that far ahead of Braga in the final lap, was he? Because it was the last lap that he overtook him.
Yeah.
So he must have made a mistake towards the end of the race there,
Yeah.
on the final lap for Christian Veal to also jump.
Yeah, to continue with the leaderboard, there's Tim Laudeman in 10th position overall, but in the 2nd position for the AM class. So a great podium for him. And he also had some close fights with the pro drivers. Then there's rather unlucky Vicky, who just had another disappointing race. But that was not her fault again. It was just rather unlucky for her. Then there's Eric Engman in 12th position with his Mercedes, who rounds up the pro drivers, so he's the last pro driver to gain any points. Then let's go on with the AM drivers. The last AM driver to get a podium is Wodicka, Libor Wodicka in his Ferrari. He is followed by Xavier Eugeni, or Eugeni. I don't know how to pronounce that properly. I once have to look where he's from to get that right. Then there's Anthony Benenate in 4th position for AM class, followed by Gronmark, Marco Winkler, Ray Taylor, Nico Nellas, then Mazzo in 20th position, Mehmet Kara in 21st position, and Magnus Hoffmann in 22nd position, who collected a few drive-through penalties. And we also have some drivers who retired, like Darren King, who had a great pace in qualifying, but something went wrong in the race in the first few laps. That's why he retired. And then we also got Orpheus Badmoon in the AM class and Nick Dealey in the Pro class who retired. So that was the championship standings. We will see you in 2 weeks' time in Barcelona. No, the screen is not frozen, Hannibal. I'm just showing the screenshot because the race is over and the server got reset. So I can't show you the server anymore because everything's got reset. We will see you in 2 weeks' time in Barcelona. It will be our penultimate run for the championship, I guess. So our second to last race, followed by our last race in Solder in 4 weeks' time. And after that 2 races, we will have a new championship coming on our way. But it's still some time for that. So I had great fun with you, James. I hope you as well.
Yes, I had a great time tonight, Fabian. It was a new challenge after used to driving in the leagues. It's obviously very different to commentate. So yeah, it's been a nice challenge, and I've had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. Otherwise, I would be lonely today, I guess. Um, but yeah, was great fun. Hope you guys had great fun as well. It was a pretty exciting race, even for Hungaroring where you can't pass that well. But we've seen some great passes, especially from John Frest, and from Macaulay, I think as well. So that was a great race to commentate on. See you in 2 weeks' time. Yeah, goodbye. Have a great evening.
Take care, guys. See you later.